Hey there, cats and kittens, Marlboro Man from WHAM Radio and new WHAM TV. Because we have a mutiny, people, here on We Have a Mutiny Radio. Coming at you from beautiful downtown Berwyn, Illinois, with America's favorite co-host, Miss Anarchist. Hello, Ann.
Hey there, guys. It's Anarchist coming to you from the dark side of the moon. And we're here. We got a really good, interesting show today, new and improved. Today we'll be talking about one of the many heads of the beast, and one of the powers in high places, the banks.
Ooh, the banks. That sounds scary, Ann.
Yeah, they are pretty scary, and we actually should fear the banks because they run the world.
Unfortunately, I heard that was true. Real quick at the top of the show here, we're just going to read off a few donors and then kind of reintroduce ourselves because we do have some new listeners out there. As Ann mentioned, it is a new and improved show. At the top of the list is Dr. John Baietti at 6623 West Archer Avenue in Chicago, Illinois, providing personalized chiropractic and acupuncture care since 1993 at 773-586-2340.
And then we would also like to thank Racine Bakery at 6216 South Archer Avenue in Chicago at 773-581-8500.
And we also have Familia Fresh Market, a very special thanks to them, on Oak Park Avenue in Berwyn, right across from McNeil Hospital. As some of you may know, are good friends of ours. We've done many shows right there from McNeil Hospital, actually. That's Familia Fresh Market across from McNeil on Oak Park Avenue.
And then we'd also like to thank Abel de Valente at 5238 West 25th Street in Cicero. He provides tailor and dry cleaning services at 708-298-9778.
A special thanks to Waldo Cooney's Pizza, my favorite pizza, I have to admit, at 2216-6733 Cermak Road in Berwyn at 749-7997. That's 708-749-7997 for Waldo Cooney's Pizza, Marlboro Man's favorite pizza.
And you can always take the trip down historic Route 66 to Route 66 Beverage Depot at 6847 Ogden Avenue in Berwyn, Illinois at 708-788-0066.
Thank you so much, Ann. I appreciate that. It's very nice. Very nice.
No problem.
Again, like I said, we'll sort of reintroduce ourselves. Some of you might not know what we're all about at WHAM Radio. And here at We Have a Mutiny Radio, we do have a couple of things that we stand for. We feel it's our responsibility as an alternative media outlet to actually stand for something. Because a wise person once said, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. So
more like anything.
Thank you. Appreciate it. One of the main things we stand for at WHAM Radio here is freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of expression, individuality. We want people to understand there's a difference between liberty and freedom. Liberty is like you get permission. Freedom just means you're free to do so, free to choose, and free to make the right choice.
Or the bad ones.
It is freedom. That is true. And people do have free will. We also stand for do no harm, accept no aggression. One of the policies here at WHAM Radio, always do no harm to anybody else or anything else and accept no aggression. So something we try to stand by there, and getting the message out there to everybody about helping others, I think, is also very important.
I do too.
Yeah, because by helping each other and doing things on our own, that's the only way we're going to win this war. And that's right. A lot of people do feel that we're in America. I have an international audience, so once again we're in the U.S. of A. here, and a lot of people here in the U.S. of A. Feel like they're in the middle of a new kind of civil war. Been a lot of talk about this. People are saying things are inevitable and this and that, and well, it does seem that we are in the middle of a. So what do you think, Ann?
Well, I think the war that we're facing right now is not just us versus them. It's very psychological, and it's also very spiritual as well.
Yeah, our war is not against flesh and bone and blood, but our war is with principalities and rulers it's a war of words, really. So for us, doing our talk show, we felt that this was the most powerful way to fight back and spark a change and make a difference. I'd love to see people go back to normal, because I think we kind of forget that the more progressive things become in society, we don't have to change our family values because of that. We don't have to change our personal values because of that. If anything, we need to hang on to them more so that we can keep the good society that I think we all pitched in to build, right? I remember that somebody sent a memo about that. So,
so one of the principalities that we're actually fighting against, is what we talked about in the beginning of the show: the banks. They're very powerful. They run the country. They run the world. For example, the way how you should look at a bank. Where would you find a bank? Well, another place where you can find banks is on the sides of a river, like a river bank. And what do river banks do? Well, river banks control the route and flow of the currency. So our money, what do we do with our money? How do we spend our money? And where do we put our money? Really is determined by what kind of banks we do business with. They're very powerful. They know about people. They know about psychology and how to get people to do what they want them to do. I believe that they're very powerful because we gave them that power. I would say back in the day, like we had talked about earlier, banks, the original banks were established by the people in the community who lived locally, and they were called community banks.
That's right. And everybody in the town just put their money in the bank, and the bank's job was to keep it safe. You could go to the bank for a loan, but in those days, most people had property they could leverage against the loan, or they could go to the bank for a loan for property in which to work the land and then pay the bank back. It was a lot simpler. It was an easier thing, and the bank never lent out more money than it had.
Right.
And it was always able to meet its obligations. A lot of the problem stems these days from the banks not being able to meet their obligations at all. And when a bank folds, that's it. You're out of luck. If another bank buys them up, you might be lucky, and they might, have some of your money, but most likely it's just going to go away and evaporate.
Like that FDIC insured garbage.
Yeah, right, like that, exactly. Another part of the problem here too is, like I just mentioned, back in the day, a big part of banking was land, and that's how it is now. Well, it wouldn't be unfortunate if not for the fact that a lot of people get dilped out of their land, by scrupulous bankers who just try to get a signature on a piece of paper and have someone sign over their whole life. Reverse mortgages are notorious for this. They've taken advantage of a lot of people.
Old people.
Elderly.
People who've worked their whole lives to get the stuff that they own, to gain the assets that they have, their house, their property, cars. What do they call them? The baby boomers, basically?
Yeah.
Because the baby boomers are the ones with all the assets and stuff. They're the ones who worked hard throughout all those years and the ones that attain all this stuff. Us millennials are going to have to work maybe 3 or 4 times as hard to even obtain 1/4 of what they had attained in their lifetime. So if you think about it, when they get a reverse mortgage, those reverse mortgages were created for the baby boomer generation to steal their wealth from their families, because if they would have just kept it in the family, they would just pass it on to the next person.
Right, exactly.
But instead, they use a reverse mortgage. They can't meet the principals on that reverse mortgage, and then all of a sudden, they just turn over the property to the bank to clear up any debt that they might have and stuff like that. But it's a scam. Yes,
it's a total scam. And a large part of the problem here, too, is, people... Yeah, a large part of the problem here, too, is the fact that inflation has finally caught up to itself. So people are no longer able to make a anything close to what it actually costs to live on these days. And what makes that worse is artificial intelligence now coming out and taking out the cashier. And I'm sorry, but that is true. A long time ago when self-checkouts first came out, I was like everyone else. We looked at them differently because they didn't get rid of any cashiers. They didn't get rid of any cash registers. They just opened up more space for 4 more cash registers that could be run by one person. So at first it made things easier, yeah. But, over the course of time, people got used to these things. They're able to use them now with little trouble. They're cracking down on a lot of the bugs that they've had in the systems, and people can even just purchase stuff with their telephone now. So some Walmarts are only going to have armed guards at the door instead of a friendly cashier staff or whatever register. They go around the store. No, they don't need that anymore. Now it's just armed guards. Think about that for a second, people. We're evolving into the type of society that is not going to allow anybody to gain an entry-level position that might be low-skilled or underprivileged, which we come across, obviously, a lot of underprivileged people. And those are the types of jobs that they needed or need in order to sustain themselves. And if we take that away, all we're doing is opening up a bigger swath of society that's going to need help and that's going to have to rely on something. But we want to make sure that what they rely on is not the government, because that's always a mistake. That's what people are going to want to run to. It doesn't have to be the government. Just say system. Any kind of, system.
Any system or control system, basically.
Yeah. And since people have been, taught by now that they can take their problems to the, system or the government,
authorities,
the authority, and then all of a sudden they're magically their problems are gone and solved and gone away. Well, it just doesn't work that way.
That's kind of how I felt when I went to McDonald's the other day, and I went to those self-serve kiosks. And the cashier went from behind the counter to where I was standing at the kiosk. And she was all happy and smiling, like, do you need help using the kiosk? And I kind of looked at her like, why are you happy to help your replacement? Because eventually you're not going to be standing behind that register no more, because this is going to be the register now.
That's right.
She's literally helping, her replacement. Do you need help using my replacement, basically? Like, she might as well just said that. But I don't think they really realize it at the time. They should actually feel threatened by them, because you're literally removing a whole section of the work market, of the job force.
And that's just it. People don't realize what's happening to them until it's too late, unfortunately. People really don't realize what is happening to them until it's too late. And, like I was saying before, they want to go, to the government to solve their problems. But people do need to understand that the only way that a government knows, any type of government or system knows how to solve the problem, is by making more government or making more system. That's all it's going to do. It can't actually solve the problem. It can make it look like it's solving a problem, but it really doesn't ever get to the bottom of anything, because it's too busy making more system, making more government.
That's exactly what happened to the banks. They make more banks.
Exactly.
Like the community bank was where everybody mutually agreed to store their wealth. They didn't get charged money for storing their wealth. They were only allowed to loan out what was stored in that bank, and they could not do anything else. And at the time, you also couldn't take out, like, if you didn't pay your loan back, you wouldn't get any more loans.
Right.
And that's how it stayed. But now they create the people complained about it, got more system involved, and the system created more banks and created bigger banks, where now people could go and get loans, and then you're getting loans, infinite amounts of loans, to the point where they're like do you need a bigger loan to cover all your old loans? Like, consolidate them together?
Which is exactly how we got into the housing crisis that
Oh,
we
yeah.
got into. People taking out loans that were giving out loans that were high risk, and of course those people defaulted, and it created
about 15 years later. Yeah,
the
after
bubble
those
burst.
loans were given out.
Exactly.
And the bubble popped. And then what had happened, a lot of those people filed for bankruptcy.
That's right.
And on top of that, they knew that they were going to file for bankruptcy about 10, 15 years later, which is why they made sure to change the Chapter 13 law.
And what happened? All the good people who paid their bills on time were the ones that ended up having to be in debt to the bank because they had to shoulder everyone else's
debt.
Debt. And if you had the money to do it and keep your house, well, you don't want to lose your investment. And if you had it, you give it. And that's exactly what happened in this scenario.
And then all they did was just increase the interest on all these loans, or on the people who were already paying for their loans. They just increased the interest on it, where instead of paying 18%, they're paying 28%.
And the cracks in the system are starting to show through. Next time you drive down the street, look at how many banks are closed down. Or
local banks, not even the big conglomerate banks.
Any bank building that used to be a bank, it's gone now. It just closed down, shuttered up, or it turned into something else. And the main reason for that is because you don't need that many buildings to house what wealth is there. It's not necessary. It was always overkill, and it's really starting to show through now. And that's another reason a lot of people feel that it's the breaking point, and that people just
like some of those buildings were ridiculously big. When you go to some of those bank buildings, they were ridiculously big. Like, who needed like a 3-story bank?
Let's pause the show for just a moment here because we would like to bring you a very important public service announcement. This very important public service announcement, Dr. John Baietti, Chiropractic, reminds you to lift with your legs, not with your back. Again, that's lift with your legs while keeping your back straight. Do not lift with your back at all. You just lift with your legs. And this is very important public service announcement and reminder, because we don't want to see anybody injured out there. Of course, we want you to be safe. Brought to you by Dr. John Baietti, providing chiropractic and acupuncture care since 1993 at 773-586-2340. That's 773-586-2340. I would also like to read another very important public service announcement. Today, there are many homeless people on the street. This is important to us as well, this issue, and you may not even know you might not even know that the people that are homeless, you might not know it. But the next time you do notice someone struggling, don't pretend it's not happening. Break some bread instead. And that very important public service announcement brought to you by the Racine Bakery at 6216 South Archer Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. That's the Racine Bakery at 6216 South Archer in Chicago, Illinois. And one more public service announcement that we feel is another very important issue. We want to make sure people are aware of this. Route 66 Beverage Depot would like to remind everyone, never ever get behind the wheel of a car if you've been drinking. Never a good idea. Always use a designated driver, and that is a very important public service announcement. Brought to you by Route 66 at 6847 Ogden Avenue in Berwyn, Illinois. That's Route 66, 6847 Ogden Avenue in Berwyn, Illinois. Don't drink and drive. Okay, well, I'm glad we got those safety messages out of the way, and hopefully that'll help some people out there. Back to you, Ann. We were discussing the banks.
That's right. So, like we were talking about, the system, whenever you give something to the system, it'll make more of itself. And basically, what's been happening with the banks is they've gotten so big, but they don't have enough money in them. Like, they don't have enough. I was talking about these big buildings.
And the Federal Reserve is not actually federal. It
No,
doesn't belong
it's privately
to us.
owned.
It's a privately owned bank. So we actually have no Federal Reserve. So just so you know, America has no place to keep its money. We have no bank. None. Zero.
Yeah, that's true.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Makes you wonder what happened to where all our actual reserves went, right?
Oh, yeah. And no one seems to be asking what happened to all our money the country used to have.
All our money, all our wealth.
Taken away.
And when I was bringing back to what I was talking about with these bank buildings, if you've ever gone to a bank, if you notice how big a bank is, and again, we have no money, we have no wealth. What's the purpose of having these large bank buildings if they're not housing our wealth? You would think if they were that big, we would have that amount of wealth in them.
It's just for show.
It is for show. It's what they call empty window dressing.
Yeah, that's right, actually. And as producers in entertainment, we learned about this in making sets and props, but they do it in real life. As a matter of fact, North Korea has a ghost city it's worse than a ghost city. It's just like basically cardboard. It's like wood. It's like balsa wood, and it looks like buildings in a city, but there's no insides of it. It's just an outside.
And nobody lives there.
Skeleton and exterior. Yeah, there's nobody there. They have lights though. They put the lights on at night, so from far away it looks like a city.
And that's what that's what these bank buildings pretty much are. They're just an empty window dressing to make us believe that we have all this wealth, that we have a reason for them to be there. And most of the time, they just close the banks down, move them somewhere else. That building stands there. They leave a bill on top of that in the township or the community that they're in. So now the community has to figure out, well, what are we going to do with this big building?
Yeah, that's right. It ends up going back on the municipality, which is run by you, the people, the townspeople. That is what that's what a municipality is, and I think a lot of people should be aware of that. That if you would live in a town, I assume, any town that you live in, that's your town, and it's supposed to be run by the people of that town. And if it's not, because everybody's too busy at work, it's probably time to take a day off of work. Because you probably don't know about the things that are going on in your own town, A. B, how many people have been upset by ridiculous, I don't even know what to call them. I'd say rules, I guess. That
policies.
Charged money, policies. For things that don't make any sense.
Because they're getting passed while people are too busy at work or watching football.
And it's usually because something happened once that, they wanted, that turned into a big issue, and they made a rule for everybody, not expecting that they'd have to follow it themselves one day. But of course, that's what always happens, which is why we really have to, for every time someone wants to make a law, we need to get rid of like 20 of them.
Yeah.
Seriously, we should just start getting rid of them. And you can do that at home. I'd also like to remind people that there's only a few basic laws of the land, and that is to not do harm intentionally, to not steal anything of value, don't murder anybody, and also don't disturb the peace. And those 4 laws of the land, which we have in America, are actually what police officers are supposed to be looking after. That's what they're trained to supposed to be looking after. So presumably, any time that they do anything more than that, it's because it started out with one of the laws of the land being broken. I think a lot of people need to pay attention to that disturbing the peace one, because I see myself a lot of these, well-intended people out there, they think that they're trying to, make a statement or say something about their freedom or something like that, and what they're ending up doing is simply disturbing the peace. And a lot of times they're intoxicated. I see that too. They think, but they're fighting a big battle, right? And of course, what happens is somebody is going to complain if you disturb the peace. So I just want people to realize that if you follow something simple like just trying to keep the peace, you can do that on your own. There's no law that says you can't do that. You basically means you go around, just being civil. And I hate that I have to say that, but I just see it too much out there. And I know it's not one of our listeners. I know our listeners would never do anything like that. They'd never do anything wrong. Not our listeners. You guys are the best. We love our international audience, and we know that they're the best people, right? But I'm just, saying that we should all take a closer look,
at our communities,
and
at the policies that are being created,
exactly.
At the people who are staying there. Are they helping you guys keep the peace in your neighborhoods, or are they creating laws and policies that destroy your communities? Like, for example, I bring it back to McDonald's, where this girl who, supported, helping with her kiosk stuff. Why are you going to support a company, a corporation, that is destroying your community by giving you a job that doesn't really care if you're there or not? It cares if you're there or not because you're not making it money. And also, it doesn't care whether or not you have a family or if you're making enough money to get by. Why support it? You have to, you can work literally in any other job in your community, like a local mom and pop shop. So instead of working at McDonald's, you can work at a regular restaurant. You don't have to work for a corporation. There's so many different ways where you could just avoid all that trouble. A mom and pop shops are not going to get a kiosk to replace their workers. But corporations, well, they're heartless like that.
Yes, they are. They definitely don't consider people at all. As we were talking about before with the artificial intelligence, Amazon's doing this, Walmart's doing this. Amazon is guilty of having left big holes in communities. What they'll do is they'll start up with one of their warehouses that are cheap and easy for them to build, and they'll make it appear as if they're good for the town. They'll hire people from the town. By the way, people that even though they're making money working at Amazon have to live on food stamps. And that's a whole other thing too. I have to say, there's nonprofits that are guilty of this when their top people are making six figures, and I can guarantee you that will never be Ann and I. We always take care of our people, and if they were living on food stamps, then we're living on them too. Another very important thing about food stamps, since we brought it up, and we're talking about the banks and the system, a lot of people should realize that if they wanted to, that's technically a loan that the government can call in whenever they want. And actually, in Illinois, it's the state, because they're the ones that do that. And the state is, it's not coming back. It's not coming out of debt, never in it. No, it's going to get worse.
That's why everything here in Illinois is so bad. People are leaving every day out of the state because cost of living's too high, but they don't get paid enough. Everybody is on welfare now. Almost everybody. I mean, I have not really met one person who wasn't on welfare. Yeah. At least in the inner city.
And I think if they told people that, less people would get them. Of course, you're starving, you need something. But my feeling on that subject is we as a people can create more charities out there to do a better job than, food stamps, because in my opinion they are taking advantage of people by not making them aware that is technically a loan, and they never do that. No. It's there in the paperwork when you sign, because I've signed it before. And
did you know that it's the banks that make the cards for the link cards? So every link card that's out there, they're all owned by a bank.
You know what the lady said when I asked her about that? She goes, "Oh, don't worry about that. It'll never happen." Well, how do you know it'll never happen? It means it could happen. It's possible. I mean, what would happen? No one knows. But that could be not a human decision. That might be a computer decision to call in that loan.
And I think this is all a few subjects that everybody should sit and think about after we finish up wrapping up our show.
Yes.
We all need to sit and think about, what's going on in our local communities, besides just, what's going on in your own home.
And what can we do about it?
What can we do about it? I mean, our founding fathers had founded this country on being able to do something about stuff rather than crying to the system.
Yeah.
To create more system.
And as hard as we work, and I know you see us out there, we do work very hard. We want to, step up our game even more and teach even more people. And that's something, that's a skill that we can pass along to others that we think will help them in their life. And we've been doing that with our programs as well as with the people in our emergency shelter.
Okay, guys, I would just want to end the show on this note. This is from Ephesians 6:12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, and against principalities, against spiritual wickedness in high places. These are all things that we need to take into consideration and look out for, and it's very important to be vigilant, and it's very important to be aware. Anything else you'd like to add, Maribel Man?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. I would like to say that this is a war of words, and never more has it rung true than the pen being mightier than the sword. This is not something that we can win with violence or brutality or any of those sorts or force. It's not. It is something that we can, however, win with enlightenment and words and quills and all-around creativity.
And revolution of the mind.
I like that. Or is it evolution of the mind?
I would say so. But if you think about it, revolution is re-evolution.
Yeah, you're right. But, people have a lifespan of only 100 years. That's why I was kind of like, Anyway. Well, that's all for the show tonight, folks. We want to thank all of our listeners out there
and our sponsors.
And that's right, our sponsors and donors as well. Very kind of you guys to help out. Once again, we have Dr. John Baietti in Chicago, Illinois at 6623 West Archer, the Racine Bakery at 581-8500 at 6216 Archer, and we have the Familia Fresh Market across the street from McNeil on Oak Park Avenue. Abel de la Valente, well, I'll be having my buttons sewn from now on because I am a button popper, at 708-298-9778, and the Marlboro Man's favorite pizza, Waldo Cooney's Pizza, at 708-749-7997, and Route 66 Beverage Depot, 6847 Ogden Avenue. A big special shout out to the Oak Park Avenue Baptist Church at 3101 31st Street and Oak Park Avenue, and is also right there by the Berwyn train station. Please join us for Sunday services at 10:30 a.m. We would love to see more people there, and it is a great way to get involved. It is a good starting point if you're trying to make a change in yourself and a change in the world around you. And remember, we're all on the air because we care.
Alright guys, this is Anarchist coming to you from the dark side of the moon.
And Marlboro Man from WHAM Radio and New WHAM TV, because we have a mutiny, people.
And we're signing out.
Signing out.